Go to Antique Obsessions for the hottest in jewelry, antiques, repurposed, solid sterling silver, one of a kind, handmade by Bruce and Jaja. Go to our Facebook, which is Antique Obsessions, or you can go to Etsy.com and go to Antique Obsessions, one word, or type it into your Google and find us there. Thanks. Tribal, primitive, rustic, Burning Man, punk rock. Conceptual subculture for the edgiest, most cutting edge designs of jewelry today. Go to etsy.com/shop/conceptual subculture, or one word, either by going to Google or search Etsy, ETSY.com, and type in one word, conceptual subculture. You will find the hottest designs using natural stones with wire wrap rings, rough, raw, genuine, semi-precious gemstone jewelry, solid sterling silver, copper, leather, orgonite, bracelets, pendants, chokers, men's copper cups with sterling accents, eco-friendly, repurposed, original, one-of-a-kind design earrings. Support MBN by going to Conceptual Subculture on Etsy. Be sure to use our 40% off coupon, BRUCE40, at checkout to receive this fabulous offer.
Warning, warning, everything I say is fucking crazy and should not be reinterpreted or reenacted because you will be either shot or NDAA'd. Warning.
There's more to this story about life on the earth, government, destiny of the human creature, who we are, who created this human race. Who are they who have created us?
Yes.
And what is the actual story here? Where are we going when we die? Who are we? And who is really in charge of the earth? Somebody's in charge of this earth. Somebody's in charge of you. They own you, they own your family, they own your body. Something's going on here that goes all the way back, and I've been in business. I was in business with Zechariah Sitchin. I gave him money and sent him around the world and talked with him for hours upon hours in private. I was in business with him.
Yes.
And I know the stuff he talked about in private, about what's really going on in this country and around the world, and why there's so many wars in the Middle East, and what Islam is really all about. That has got nothing to do with Allah and all that other nonsense, but what Islam is really all about. Who actually, in fact, founded it? Where did the money come from? And who are the people who promoted it at its very beginning? And what does it have to do with the Jesuits?
Everything.
You might want to go back and look at the whole religion of Islam and look at the Greek gods, the ancient Greek gods that are connected to Islam. You might want to go back and look at the Islam's connection to the Jesuits, and the entire dirty, mentally deranged religion we call Islam is all part and parcel of something that the Jesuits, that the secret societies in England and the Vatican have whipped up to manipulate, exploit the people of the Middle East, and the people of the Middle East have no idea in the world where this stuff is really coming from.
No idea. They have no idea Islam means submit.
Yeah.
This is what it actually means.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that once you understand, and I haven't even scraped the surface, I haven't been able to show you anything, I'm just talking.
Right.
But if you understand from the first time, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you have a 2-story building that you own, and you're going to put a lot of weight on the second floor, like automobiles or printing presses, if you're going to put a lot of weight on that second floor, the first thing you need to do, if you've got any brains at all, is to get a building inspector and go downstairs and get on some ladders and remove the ceiling tiles downstairs and look at the foundation of the second floor and see if it's going to hold that kind of weight. So what you're doing is you're standing under what you're going to build on. And now you can get a true understanding. That's where the word comes from. To understand means to stand under what you're building on. So if you're going to base your life on something, you might want to understand what you're building your life on. So if you think you love Allah, you better go back and do some homework and find out where that word really came from and who really gave birth to what we call Islam. And the connections behind Islam to the Jesuits, to the Vatican, and to secret societies. Very powerful, arcane, well-hidden, highly financed secret societies in the Middle East and in Europe.
Right.
You need to understand your religion is nothing more than a piece of work by secret societies. Very powerful men behind the scenes who are manipulating the people of the Middle East. They're manipulating them for a reason, for a war. It's all part of a secret society. Fraternal orders, handshakes in dark, smoke-filled rooms.
Right.
I mean, it's incredible. And then when you look at that, you need to go back and look at Judaism and see where Judaism really came from. Not what you think where it came from. Not what the rabbis tell you.
Well, that's what's interesting.
Where did it really come from?
Well, where did it come from, Jordan? I mean, I'm so intrigued by your book, Moses, the Lawgiver, and your presentations, Magic Mushrooms and Moses. I mean, were they really on this psilocybin? Did they just dream the whole thing up?
You know, there are now articles and books and articles and magazines in Israel. I didn't write them. I'm just telling you about them.
Yes.
There are articles and books and professors in Israel today. And I've got a whole mess of them. Every time I come across one, I save it. I've got a whole mess of articles written by rabbis, by paleontologists in Israel, by archaeologists in Israel. Just an enormous amount of articles and books and publications talking about Moses and hallucinogenic drugs. And they're saying there was no Moses. Moses never existed. It's like talking and discussing Superman.
Right.
It's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful thing to talk about.
And we're not rewriting history here, folks, to those naysayers out there. We're not rewriting history. This is history. This man, Jordan Maxwell, had studied for 60 years. He knows what he's talking about.
Well, like I said, I don't care what other people think.
Right.
My feeling about my work is very simple. I'm just a messenger. I don't care what you think, what you don't like, what you like, whether you believe. I couldn't care less. I just put it out there like a professor in a university. I'm just telling you what the story is. If you don't like it, I don't care. Nothing off of no skin off of my nose. I don't care what you think or what you like or don't like. I'm just telling you what the history is.
Excuse me, Jordan. I just wanted to say one thing, that I went to Hebrew school, and and the rabbi, I used to ask him, was like, "What's up with Adam and Eve, and like, how does it relate to any kind of notion of the man, changing of man,
Yeah.
And he apes, and they said, "Oh, well, all that stuff is symbology. You really shouldn't believe any of that stuff. Just understand more of like the laws and the ethics, because most of that stuff is 2,000 years old, and it's like grapevine things anyway. It doesn't really line up to science. It really.
Okay. Well, that's cool. In other words, Christianity is just buying a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, they didn't really.
I like what Rodney Dangerfield said. He said we talk about faith. We use the word faith, and Dangerfield said, faith is that wonderful, wonderful quality that allows you to believe something that you know is bullshit. And so I thought to myself, that's exactly right, because if you go back to an etymology of the word faith, faith is actually in the Christian world credulity. You see, there's a difference between having faith in something. You've got to understand what the word faith means, not today. Today, faith means very simply credulity. Faith means today to hope and pray that something will happen. And just hope and pray that it will happen. And you don't know for sure, but this is what you're hoping for. And you're just so sure that it will happen. So you'll just wait and see. And that's faith. But that's not what the word in Greek meant in the scriptures. In the Greek word in faith in the scriptures means something totally different. What it meant in the old scriptures, the word faith means this. To give you an example, when you get up in the morning, this is what faith means in the Bible. When you get up in the morning, you don't look when you put your feet on the floor. You just get up. Why did you not look down on the floor first to make sure there was a floor? Why didn't you check to see if there was glass there or razors or something sharp or maybe a hole in the floor? Why didn't you do that? You just got up and didn't even look to see what you were stepping on. You just got up and put your foot on the floor. Why did you do that? Well, the word is faith in Greek, which means you did something just knowing that it's going to be there. You don't hope it's going to be there. You know it's going to be there. It's always been there. It'll always be there. I mean, you may go, but the floor is still going to be here. And so that's what the word faith means in Christianity. Just doing something and just know that God is there. You just know that there's a great spirit, and that great spirit is watching the earth, is watching the destiny of the human race, is watching all things, is highly intelligent. It's always been there, it's there now, it's always going to be there, and you and your family will be gone for 1,000 years, but God will still be there.
That's
so
right.
Therefore, the word faith simply means doing something and just assume that the Spirit is there, God's there, whatever you want to call it. It's always been there, it'll always be there, and you may come and go, but the great Spirit of the world is going to always be here because it always has been here. That's what faith is. So that's why when you go to church, and when you go to a new church, and people assume you are a Christian, if you're in church, and they will say to you, "Oh, how long have you been a believer? Are you a believer?" And then they have books in Christian bookstores talking about the believer's house of faith and the believer's this and the believer's that and the Christian believer. The very word believer implies you don't know anything. You believe.
Right.
You don't know for sure nothing. So you believe that everything will be fine. Well, you see people, governments like the United States government, the biggest dog on the block, is not interested in what you believe. Nobody in this country gives a damn about what you believe. We have the CIA and the NSA and about 13 other organizations above CIA. They don't care what you believe. They are there like the FBI, a Federal Bureau for Investigation, a CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. So they tap your lines, they tap your life, they follow you and your credit card, they follow everything you're doing. They don't want to believe that you are a good citizen. They want to damn well know, period. They want to know exactly what you're doing. We don't care what we believe you are a nice guy. We want to know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's a big difference between being a believer and somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. So when you're talking about theology, you need to understand there's a big difference between being a believer and somebody who damn well knows what they're talking about. And so the way you know what you're talking about is when you study theology. Do what I've done for 60 years. Read and study, day in and day out, the different religions of the world, the different cults, where the cults have come from, all the secret societies that have given birth to religions, to philosophies, to governments, to revolutions. You need to understand the world you live in, period. And people have no idea in the world how religion works.
Well, it's all
Today
control.
in the Western world, religion is a business. Today in the Western world, religion is a business. Churches are corporations. That's a whole nother subject when you get
It has
into...
to be. It has to be because they would help people more, they'd help people more with, for example, remedies, or they wouldn't... I was saying to Bruce last week about the exorcism in the church, how they would really... how salt would actually expel the human parasites, which were probably taking over their body and giving them that change. They were, looking like they were possessed. But the church walked in there laughing at them, like with a cross, spreading some salt on their face.
Instead of giving it to them to ingest and make them better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, churches are corporations.
Yes.
And they're divided into denominations. That's how you divide your money in America, with denominations. 50s and 20s and 10s and 5s. Those are all denominations of money. That's why churches are referred to as denominations. Why? Because it's a corporation. It's a company. It's business. And this is why when you get married in the church or in the synagogue or in the temple. Why? Because the church, religion, temple, synagogue, all of that is religion. All of that is corporations, all of that is business. That's why you have to have a license to get married in the church, because your marriage is a business. You don't think so? Well, if the marriage doesn't work out, you're not going to God, you're going to court. You better bring your money, your house, and your children, and everything else, because it's just business.
Oh, we got a good business.
Yeah, we got married in court, actually, right across from the Supreme...
Yeah, but do you understand the point of it?
Yes, absolutely, Jordan, absolutely.
It's a business.
And so when I see you one night coming out of an Italian restaurant at 2 in the morning with some woman, and I say to you, that girl you were with last night, she's bad company. And you say, mind your own business. Business? Company? And then I find out you're going to get married and she's going to be your partner. What are you talking about? Partner? Business? Company?
That's right.
Yes, it's a business. It's called a business, corporate business. And you can't do business in America without a license. So that's why you have to have a license to get married, because it's simply a business. That's all it is. It's a business. Now, of course, that's your business, not my business. Who I sleep with and who I'm married to is my business, not yours. But nonetheless, it is a business.
Yeah.
And the business is between me and the woman I sleep with. That's our business. And it doesn't matter, because maybe our business goes sour. And if it does, it's not going to the Lord, like I said. You're going to court. Why do you go to court? Because it was a state that gave you a license to do business. And, of course, it turned out to be a bad business, and now you're defuncting a business. But then again, that's your business, not my business.
Absolutely.
So the point I'm making is that even human relationships are corporations. It's nothing more than a business. And that's why, you need to understand how the world works. Because once you really see it, the first thing you will notice when you finally see it, and 99% of the people on the earth will never finally see it. They will go to their grave and never, ever suspecting what the real story was on the earth.
No, they didn't know they lived under maritime law their entire life.
The whole time, and they never realized any of it. Never knew what it meant. It means nothing, and they're gone now, and their children are ignorant, ill-informed, and unread, and they'll have babies, and those babies will grow up, and they will have children, and those children will grow up, and they'll have children until one day you got 7 billion people on the earth with an IQ of 30. Nobody knows shit about nothing. Nobody. Nobody knows how the world began. Nobody knows what the words mean. Nobody understands what government is. No, they have no idea what the word government even comes from. You have no idea in the world what the Vatican is, what the Roman Empire was, and where all of this stuff and law comes from. It's just amazing to me how much the world of mankind is totally ill-informed, unread, and dying. For where there is no vision, the people perish. And that's what's happening today. America is perishing. She's falling apart. She's falling apart now in front of you.
They're on
Why?
drugs.
Because people have no idea in the world what's going on.
America's on drugs, on magical mushrooms, psilocybin freaking trip. That's what they're on.
But Jordan, how did the world begin?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why we're in trouble. Because all we are is looking for entertainment, Paris Hilton, all the silly nonsense with sex, drugs, rock and roll, music, baseball, football. Do you realize every sport, I can't think of a sport that we know of in a modern day world that doesn't include a ball.
Right.
Baseball, football, tennis ball, ping pong ball, bowling ball, kick a ball, soccer ball, baseball, basketball, ping pong ball,
and there are occult symbols hidden in baseball that you wouldn't even believe.
Yeah, why do you have 3 bases? 3 bases and you're out. Why do you play on the square? Get it?
Yes. Or the bat itself could represent death, the hit of death. Or the pitcher on the mound is the grand architect, while all the others are just the pawns waiting for whatever the pitcher does.
Yeah, but that's what we even say today. When somebody's trying to sell you on something, they're pitching you an idea.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're going to catch it. And so once you see ball games, sports were instituted in the ancient world for one thing. Because the rulers in the ancient world, the kings and the warlords, they realized that young people have a lot of energy. And if you don't do something about that energy, you're going to be in trouble. Because if you get a whole town full of young 19-year-olds and they're all drinking, and you're an old man as the ruler, if you lose control of those 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds, they're very strong. They've got a lot of vitality. They're strong, and there's a lot of them. There's thousands of them. And so you need to keep control over those young people. And so the best way to do it, because they got so much energy, is to make sure they dissipate their energy. Mm-hmm. Make sure they dissipate their energy so they're tired and want to go home and go to bed. Why? Because they've just lost all their energy. Good. That's what we want. We want them tired and go home and stay home and shut your mouth. And so they give them sports, because nothing in the world will dissipate your energy like running around like a bunch of dogs bouncing a ball. Yeah, so they run around a tennis ball, and they run here, they catch a ball, and they throw a ball, they kick a ball, they catch a ball, they bounce a ball. And so the whole idea in sports is to dissipate the energy of young people. Why? Because if young people put down all the 45 different ball games and started reading and studying and educating their minds as to how the masters who own you, and they own your country, and they own you, how they do it. And here's what they are, here's how they do it, here's how they run your country. And they're doing all of this when you're sound asleep. And they're dissipating your energy because you've gone out to the ball game.
Well, like vampires, like reptilians. You know?
Well, that's it.
That's really where, it's in the Bible, the Elohim, the Malek, or the Jinn.
Yep.
I subscribe to that. I know you mentioned Zechariah Sitchin.
Yeah, I've been talking about that stuff for years.
Yes. I think, and that's how I think the overlords really are. Because They can't be that. No one can be that cold to their fellow man. You know, if you're freezing outside, I can't just let you freeze. When I have some warm soup, you know, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But these people are the opposite.
The people who run this planet, the people who are in power, you will never see them. You will never know who they are.
Right.
You will never hear their name. You will never ever be aware that the people who are really in power in this world are not the Queen of England, not the Pope, because if you remember, even Caesars, when they were sitting on the throne of the Roman Empire, Caesars merely represented the powers that be in his time. But he wasn't the power that be. Others were the powers that be behind him. And one of the Caesars was murdered on the Senate House steps. That show you how important he was.
Yeah.
His own people killed him. So once you understand that behind the Caesars in Rome was a family called the Pisos, Picos, Pisos family. The Pisos were like the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers today. The real powers behind the government is the money. The people who control the international flow of big money. They are the powers. And the president is simply the president of a company. But the company is owned by somebody. They didn't tell you that. So see, we have Obama as the president, but he doesn't own America. He's just the president of a company, a president of a corporation.
Yeah.
But whoever has 90% of the stock, whoever owns 90% of the stock, that guy living down in the Bahamas with his boyfriends at some $37 million retreat down in the Bahamas, that's the guy who's the boss, because he holds the money. And as long as whatever he says, that's what the president does. And if the president doesn't do it, then like John Kennedy, we whack him.
Wow.
Shoot him in public. Kill him in public. So that everybody else will know the old man down in the islands told him to do something, and he didn't do it, and look what he got. Now, if I'm going to make you president, you better keep in mind what happened to the guy before you. So that's why today, the president of the United States does not really have any real power. It's the people who own the land, who own the country. I mean, George Carlin talked about that over and over again. The people who actually own the country. And that's, in point of fact, that's true. There are people today on the earth, you don't know them, you'll never meet them, but they own America. As a private families who own what we call the United States of America is owned the property. And so, there's just so much
they own
for
us.
people to know.
And they even own us, and we don't know it.
Of course they own you. Of course they own you.
Amazing.
So you don't think America's going to be safe in the next few years at all to live?
Well, I think it's very interesting what's happening. There is, in my mind, to my way of thinking, because I've been looking at it for 60 years, I know that there was a metaphysical or a spiritual idea in the minds of the gods on Atlantis. And when you go back from Atlantis, you go back into the ancient prehistoric world, there were other great civilizations which have gone now, but we have remnants of them still. We still see some of that left. Great temples, enormous temples and pyramids in the oceans of the world.
Yes.
Off the coast of Japan, there are huge temples in the ocean. Off the coast of Cuba, enormous temples in the ocean. In the Bermuda Triangle, there's huge big pyramids sitting on the ocean floor. And nobody seems to have asked the question, what in the hell are temples doing out in the ocean? Well, that's not important because it hasn't got anything to do with Paris Hilton or your football, so don't worry about it. But what I'm saying is that there have been many, many civilizations here for millions and millions of years. We know that. Scientifically, we know that there have been civilizations on this earth for at least 3.5 billion, spelled with a B, billion years, 3.5 billion years ago. 3.5 billion years ago on this earth were other highly intelligent creatures. We don't know what they were, if they were like us or not. All we know is that somebody was here 3.5 billion years ago, scientifically provable. Why? Because the mining, when the miners in Central Africa and South Africa were digging down into the earth, they went way down into the earth, and at the depth that the deepest of the deep ones mines go, all paleontologists around the world agree that at that depth, the strata of the earth is at least 3.5 billion years old. All paleontologists, archaeologists agree that at that depth, miles and miles down, whatever it is, that ground that they're in, or that strata, is 3.5 billion years old. Well, if that's the case, they are finding handmade artifacts in jewelry down there, miles down into the earth in strata, which is 3.5 billion years old.
Wow.
Which obviously you don't have to be an astronaut or Einstein to figure out if they're finding handmade artifacts in strata, which is 3.5 billion years old. That means 3.5 billion years ago, somebody was here.
That's right.
And somebody was molting lead and molting iron and molting precious metals and making little artifacts and rings and whatever else they're making. And we now find them because we've gone down there, that far down.
They sure were.
So the history of the earth is not what you have been told. Period. You've been lied to.
Oh, well, the clues are all around us, Jordan. I mean, all the ancient hieroglyphics. I mean,
all of it.
You go to Mexico, so many just answers there. I mean, in the pyramids from the Yucatan. I mean, Pakal, Palenque. I mean, where did he go? He just disappeared into the cosmos. He left this earth. I mean, who helped him leave?
That's right. I'm just saying somebody needs to answer some of these questions. Although I realize that these questions are not really important to everyday life, especially when the Dodgers are playing, or the football team, and the politicians, and all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and the newest movie comes out, the movie stars, and all that stuff.
They don't care.
But if you actually, gain a little wisdom with your age and start looking back deeply into the real, dark, dirty, strange, hidden history of the planet Earth, and you will begin to start thinking about who was your mother? Where did she come from? Who was your father? What about your brother and sister? Who are they really? Because remember, your brain is like any other male brain. If you took 60 different men and put their brains on a table, there's no way you can tell one brain from another. It's just a brain. And if you take 60 men's bodies with no head and put the bodies out on a big table, there's no way you're going to tell which body belongs to who. So therefore, what I'm saying is your body does not determine who you are. It's just a body. And your brain doesn't determine who you are. It's just a brain. So what determines who you are? Your personality, what you think is funny, what you don't think is funny, what makes you angry, what makes you happy, your personality, who you are. Where did that come from? I heard a brilliant lecture on television and on the web from something, I think it was TED, one of the lectures on the TED network.
TED Talk.
Yeah, and the doctor was saying, what is the brain for? Why do humans have a brain? what is it actually used for? And so he showed the brain is only in your skull for one thing and one thing only, to maneuver your body. It keeps your heart beating, it keeps your electrical nerves operating, so that you can walk, so that you can talk, so that you can bend down, pick things up. It merely controls the movement of the human. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with ideas and concepts and imagination. Nobody knows where that comes from, period. So he said, the brain only operates the body to make sure all the body works, and make sure your muscles work, the electronic system, the eyes, all of that works. That's what the brain is, a computer for the body. But that does nothing. It has nothing to do with your intellect, your spirituality, who you are, your personality, zero. And so then you have to ask the question, as that doctor did, well, then who are you? Yeah, we know about your brain, but hell, dogs got brains. Pigs have brains.
Yeah.
Women have bodies. We all got bodies. We all got brains. But who are you? Where did you come from? And so that's why, the ancient people talked about there was a mind, body, and spirit. You got a mind, yeah. You got a body, yeah. But you have a spirit. So when the body dies, the mind dies. Do you die? Or where were you before you were born? And where do you go when you die? Well, you might want to start thinking about that, because you could die tomorrow.
Wow.
So where are you going when you die? Have you ever wondered about that? So I'm just saying, when you start looking at the world you live in and understand the words and the terms, you begin to see governments, political power, monetary power, secret societies, humans, period. Anytime you got human institutions, all of this is all man-made crap.
Absolutely.
You need to go back to looking at who are we as humans, and where did we come from, and what is this BS we've been told about government, and the law, and this law and that law. And you got to ask yourself, what are you talking about? Law? Whose law? Well, you got to be in subjection to the law. Whose law? Well, there it is, right there in the book, right there in the law library. See it? It's the law library with all the law books. My question is, who wrote the damn book? That's my question. Who wrote that book? Well, whoever wrote it, that's whose law we're following. Well, suppose I don't like the guy who wrote it. Maybe it's some guy in Africa, and I don't like his idea about law. Well, it doesn't matter. He wrote the book, so you have to follow the book. I don't need to follow any book. I don't need to follow your God, your book, your politician, your government, your bank. I don't need to follow anything. I do my own thinking. Thank you. I don't need you to tell me what I need to think and how to think. So that's all I'm advising people to do. Wake up and find out you're being lied to, you're being deceived continually. And if you don't like Marxist-Leninist Soviet communism, then drop the Democratic Party. Get out of it.
Absolutely.
Democratic means Marxist communism. Period.
Demagogic party, it sounds like to me.
It.
Jordan, everything is just like blind faith. Religion, like you've said many times, is just a tool of control. But
that's all.
it's just such blind faith. I mean, in Judaism, you have the story of Exodus. I mean, they believe that story, yet Ramses wasn't the pharaoh then. So that just proves to me, like you said, is bullshit.
Yeah, I've talked to rabbis over the years, and they just roll their eyes when I tell them. I ask them, was Moses a real person? What about King David and King Solomon, King Saul? Were these real, actual people? And very famous rabbi back in 1960, I've said this before, he said to me when I asked him, was King Solomon and King David and all of these ancient kings and rulers in the Bible, Old Testament, real people? And he said to me, look, give me a break. Catholics have got a religion. Protestants got a religion. Islam's got a religion, and Hindu's got a religion. For Christ's sake, leave me alone. I got to have a religion. So I got a religion too. I got wife and kids I got to support. I got a kid in college. I got to earn a living too, like anybody else. So I got a religion, and I make a good money being a rabbi. And I said, yeah, but what you're teaching, is it true? Who the hell cares if it's true? It's a religion. People will like it. Everybody agrees with it. And so it's a religion, and I make money, and they're happy, and we're happy, and we're all happy.
But they're not, in Judaism, for the most part, I've been in a lot of different ceremonies, like listening to rabbis, they don't really get very pedagogical about the story itself more than the moral of the story. That's kind of how they use it. And
well, that's good. Okay, well, in other words, all of the stories are not true.
Yeah,
they're symbolic.
I always hear that from the rabbi. Maybe you met some old school guys. There's a lot of dogmatic, even in the Hasidic communities. They're very dogmatic. You can't budge them, but they're very much like the Christians. They they tell you, this is the story. This Noah existed.
Well, it's like a cult.
It's way different.
That's all it is, just a cult.
And
a lot of Jews do not understand that the Jewish God today, not always, but today, the Jewish God is Saturn.
Solomon. Solomon means Saturn.
Okay, but I always want to know, how did Saturn become such the worship? The planet of worship, was Saturn lower in its astrological position?
Yeah, well, that's very interesting how Saturn became the Jewish god today. But if you look at the planet Saturn, on the North Pole of the planet Saturn,
yes,
you've seen the pictures of the North Pole of planet Saturn?
Oh, there's a hexagram there.
That's right. And so the Star of David is what you call a hexagram. Well, the Star of David is on the North Pole of the planet. Go on the web and type in hexagram Saturn, or Saturn's hexagram.
But how do they know about it back
then? And you will
then?
see on the North Pole of the planet Saturn is a big hexagram, which is the same hexagram Jews wear around the neck as the Star of David.
And Jordan, this is very important because, most people, like you said, so ignorant. They don't even know that the Star of David was given to the Jews by Jesuits after the Battle of Prague. As a hex, like these people are hexagram.
Well, that's why, the ancient Babylonians, the ancient sun cults of Babylonia, used to draw a circle on the ground of the sun. There's a circle on the ground, and then they step inside of the circle and draw a triangle.
Yes.
And then they would draw another triangle reversing, going the other way. Now they've got a Star of David, a six-pointed star inside a circle. And then they would stand inside that six-pointed star and cast a spell on you.
That's right.
That's how you get words. You create words with a spell. You spell the word.
Amazing.
And so they create a spell, and that's why we call it putting the hex on you. Mm-hmm. And so that's why the Jews today have a hex on them. Right. Because they're proud to show you that they are following the Babylonian sun god Hex Worship. And so, if you go back to the Sumerian and Babylonian, what we call the Akkadian language.
What predates?
Yeah. But if you go back 5,000 years ago to the Middle East, you will see that the god in the Middle East was Saturn. And the Phoenician Canaanite word for the planet Saturn, we call it today Saturn. But in the ancient world, that planet was not called Saturn. It was called. I'm getting old and I'm tired.
Doesn't matter.
It's known as many names. The Dark
Lord. But wait a minute. No, it was called in the Babylonian language. The planet was called Shabbath. 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 Shabbath.
Well, like the candles.
Like Shabbat. Like Shabbat.
No, that has to do with something else. I'm telling you, the planet called Saturn was referred to in the Babylonian language as Shabbath. Shabbath is the planet Saturn thousands of years ago. And so today, if you're going to worship Shabbath, you do it on the Sabbath. So today, when we hear the Christian talk about one of the Ten Commandments says, keep the Sabbath holy. There's nothing holy about the Sabbath. That's why there's a rock group called Black Sabbath. It's all demonic depravity called Black Sabbath. Why? Because black was the color associated with the planet Saturn. Go back in the dictionary, get the Encyclopedia Dictionary, and look up Saturn, and it will tell you
the Dark Lord, the dark sun, the original sun.
That's so that the point being is that Saturn's color was thousands of years ago known to be black. And so if you're worshiping Shabbath, Saturn, the black square, then you are worshiping Sabbath.
That black square is everywhere. I mean,
I know.
It's
anyway. We could go on for hours, and I don't have hours. I'm getting old and tired, so I'm going to go. But all I would say is just understand words and how the world really works. Because if you don't, you're just a sitting duck. If you don't understand how words work and what the words mean and how governments really operate, then you're really going to be lost.
No, you're done.
You're really going to be lost.
Yes.
So,
Jordan. Well, Jordan, it's been great having you on. I want to just end with one quick question. I've read so much about your Area 51 UFO encounters. I've had some myself, believe it or not, driving on the highways coast to coast from the United States. I've seen some weird things. I mean, what was that all about?
Yeah, well, that's a big story. That's a very big story. I mean, it'd take me at least an hour to tell you because it started a year and a half before. And that whole incident of me seeing the UFOs, and we had an alien come in our bedroom after we saw the UFOs up at Area 51. We actually had an alien come in the bedroom.
Wow.
So that's a big story, and I need to explain it all to you, but that'll take about an hour. So maybe we can talk about that another time. But I do know aliens exist. Alien life forms from other worlds do exist, and I do know they're up in Area 51. I know that for sure because we saw them.
I think some of them are even protecting you.
Well, I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
There's so many orders out there that keep other. I mean, they say the Greys. I mean, the Pleiadians, the Reptilians. The Greys and the Pleiadians watch over the Reptilians. I mean, it's just like a sci-fi comic book almost.
Yep, and me, I don't care. I'm 76 years old. I just do what I do.
Yes.
I have no idea where I come from.
They are the Watchers.
Where I'm going.
They are the Watchers. They are the Elohim, like you and all your associates have highlighted for researchers such as myself. I can't tell you how happy I am to have you on the show. Every time you're on, it's great. I'm sorry if I cut you off sometimes. I'm the Motor Mouth Montalvo. That's how they know me. So I really loved having you on, Jordan, and thank you for hitting it out of the park. I mean, the inside baseball you're bringing to the show is just amazing.
Well, thank you. We can do it again another time.
Absolutely. Now let our listening audience know how they can help you. Again, give out your website and the Research Society, your PayPal, how they can give you a donation.
Just go to my website is Jordan Maxwell Show, SHOW. And on there you will see on my website, which is a podcast. It's just a podcast, a lot of radio on it and some other stuff. And but there's also I've added another website to the Jordan Maxwell Show podcast. It's called the Research Society. So when you go to Jordan Maxwell Show, you'll see a button that says Research Society, and you click on it, and you can join it. And all that is just another website connected to my show that is filled with all of my personal writings, all of my personal research, pictures, documents, articles, links, pages, just all kinds of stuff, especially the pictures.
Yeah.
I get into religions, I get into government, to secret societies and what they're doing and who they are. And a lot of the stuff I can't put in the public. I put it out to something private. So you have to join to see it because I don't want it in the public eye. And so there's a lot of stuff there. A lot of stuff.
That's the inside baseball, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a gold mine of many, many years of my work, and putting it out there for people to join. It's called the Research Society. So go on my website, jordanmaxwellshow.com, and stay away from jordanmaxwell.com. That's somebody posing as me.
Now, poser.
They're posing as me, and acting like it's my website. In fact, no, they're ripping me off. Being ripped off because people don't know. They go to jordanmaxwell.com thinking it's me. It's not me.
Meanwhile, you're embroiled in a lawsuit with these scumbags, and I wish Godspeed that you get your name back, get your work back, because these scumbags, these plagiarizing scum. I mean, I give you all the credit in the world, Jordan. I'd give you 5 hours if you wanted it. You are my mentor. You are my friend, and I appreciate having you on the show. You're the best guest we have. You're the only guest we have. I keep bringing you back because you're the best.
I appreciate it. Thank you for it.
Thank you, my friend.
We will talk later.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much for being on. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was the legendary Jordan Maxwell. What a show. What a show.